And so please let me introduce our first speaker this morning, Eric Postel, who is the Associate Administrator for the Bureau of Economic Growth, Education, and Environment at the U.S. Agency for International Development. We're very thrilled to have you with us today and for the support to the Education and Crisis and Context Network, which allows gatherings like this to happen. So thank you and welcome.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? I hope you had a good weekend. Thank you, Mary, for the welcome. And thank you to all the folks involved in putting this on the Education and Crisis Conflict Network, the Teachers College at Columbia University, and the Interagency Network for Education in Emergencies. I'm glad to see you're already off to a fast start with tough, provocative questions, and that's really good. Because this event provides a great opportunity to highlight one of the most pressing issues of our time, the education needs of refugees. I don't need to tell you that. We're pleased to have such a great group of researchers, practitioners, policymakers gathered here to discuss the challenges and opportunities for providing education to refugee children, especially in urban situations. And obviously, this is a very timely event given global developments. The launch of Education Cannot Wait, the commitments made during the Leaders Summit that was just spoken about, the recommendations in the announcement or the report that was launched a week and a half ago at UNGA, the Education Finance Commission's Learning Generation Report, and then, of course, in 2 weeks, the Habitat 3 conference on housing and sustainable urban development, which is only held, I think, every 20 years. So all of this being discussed this fall. And these are good for all of us to get together and talk about these things, but obviously the urgency is because of 3.5 million children who are out of school around the world. And on that point, I know all of us are feeling very pressed and motivated to try to make progress. Let me just share, as a way of getting into this, a story that our team in Jordan told me about a young boy named Abdul Malik. He fled violence in Daraa, Syria 3 years ago. His family sought refuge in Jordan and settled in Irbid, the third largest city in Jordan. Abdul's mother, Wafa, more than anything else, wanted Abdul and his 2 brothers to go to school. She tried to enroll them in public schools, but they were turned away because there was no space for them. The school that did have space for them was a local private school. So he and his brothers began there, but after a few months, it won't surprise you that they had to drop out because the family could not afford the $40 per month in fees. Sadly, the challenges that Abdul faced in trying to go to school are not uncommon. As you know, when a crisis hits or a conflict erupts, families get displaced. Children's lives are uprooted and put under huge stress. The routines of daily life are disrupted. Children experience and witness firsthand violence and other traumatic events in either their home countries or en route to a safe haven or sometimes in the safe haven itself. Throughout all of this, they lose the opportunity to learn, to play, to develop in a supportive and caring environment. And this is the case no matter where they seek refuge. Now, we usually think, of course, of refugees fleeing conflict as being in camps and living in tents. But as you know, and as was mentioned, the majority are not living in camps. In fact, 2/3 are in urban communities. And these displaced people face unique challenges. In an urban environment, identification and registration of refugees is difficult and can leave many without the needed documentation to access essential services, including education. Without the right to work, urban refugees are especially burdened by a higher cost of living. So just like Abdul's family, many families struggle to pay for a pen and notebook for their children to take to school, let alone to pay for school fees. With these constraints, many families feel they have no choice but to send their children out to work illegally instead of sending them to school. For Abdul, his mother found a community center run by the Islamic Charity Center Society in which to enroll Abdul and his brothers. So fortunately, in his all too rare case, he now regularly attends classes where he can learn Arabic and math as well as benefit from psychosocial support. But unfortunately, too many are not like Abdul. While regular attendance at school has the potential to help restore a child's well-being, displaced children continue to face ongoing threats in and around schools. These threats prevent them from staying in school and learning. In some cases, displaced children are bullied and harassed by their peers. Teachers may discriminate against them and may use harsher forms of punishment. And the language of instruction may differ from their mother tongue or home language, making it difficult for them to learn. All of these, as many of you know so well, are further compounded by the development challenges faced by countries of first asylum. In countries hosting some of the largest populations, places like Turkey, Pakistan, Lebanon, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Jordan, local institutions are struggling to cope with natural population growth and urbanization of their own people before having this wave of refugees hit. These trends with their own people as well as with new people coming to the country tax local systems. Education systems are stretched. Schools don't have enough space for new students, and teachers struggle to deliver quality instruction in overcrowded classrooms. So as a result, as you know, the education systems have a really limited capacity to absorb refugees. Despite all these challenges, the outlook is not completely gloomy, starting with the just simple fact that everybody probably understands more now and more high-level attention is being given to this than at any time in the past. And we see opportunities for expanding access to displaced populations, particularly in urban environments. Times of crisis can present opportunities for policy reforms and strengthening host country institutions, whether governmental or non-governmental. If well designed and implemented, these reforms have the potential to address inequality in the education system, expanding access to quality education for all children, including vulnerable host community children. It's also the opportunity to build the capacity of the local institutions and authorities who provide frontline support to schools, principals, and teachers. And where there's greater flexibility for employment for refugees, and a lot of people are working on that subject as well, urban refugee education can also take advantage of trained refugee educators who are serving as teachers or who can serve as classroom assistants or parent support in schools to growing student populations. This can help to address shortages in teacher or school personnel in local schools. Urban settings also provide an opportunity for concentration in other social services. Schools are more likely to be within safe distance to where displaced children live. Integration of displaced children into mixed classrooms with host community children provides an opportunity to teach important social and emotional skills such as empathy, tolerance, cooperation, and conflict resolution. And greater population density means that more specialized non-formal education programs and teacher professional development can be delivered cost effectively. And finally, given the other challenges displaced families face, urban environments, the school and the programs in those schools can provide an opportunity to work more holistically to serve a variety of needs for refugee families. This may include health screenings and immunizations at school, linking cash stipends to education enrollment, or providing take-home rations or household goods to students. Before wrapping up, I'd like to follow Ita's excellent example of encouraging frank discussion about how best to move forward, with some questions to consider in your formal or informal discussions here today. As we reflect on the challenges and opportunities, some of the questions that USAID is grappling with are these. What are the specific education reforms and policies that can truly lift education outcomes for all learners in a country, both the displaced and the host community? What are effective institutions to strengthen, what are effective strategies to strengthen institutions, national or local, governmental or non-governmental, to implement these policies and reforms? And how do we ensure that no children are left behind? Today, we'll hear about how integration into host country schools is a growing trend and one of the leading recommendations for refugee education. However, this is obviously a challenging policy position for governments hosting large populations and even donors. Asking those countries to open the school gates to refugees raises a lot of thorny issues that need to be addressed. For example, in many of these refugee hosting countries, school systems and local schools are already stretched by the population pressures of their own country and urbanization. So where are they going to find the extra resources needed to welcome the learners? Where are they going to find the resources for teacher salaries, for additional classrooms, for desks, for textbooks? Where are they going to find the number of qualified teachers needed to address those demands? How will they quickly train enough new teachers to provide even the minimal quality of instruction for refugee children? What additional training do current teachers need to support refugees in the classroom? And who will provide it? What new financing models need to be made available to governments hosting large refugee populations to incentivize integration of refugees into local education systems? This is a live topic, for instance, for Education Cannot Wait. The first proposals came in, and they are positive and they can make a difference, but I'm not sure that they really incorporate all the learnings and the research and that they're cutting edge. And you can't fault them for that. They were asked to put those together in just a couple of short months and so that things can get moving. So how do we do all of these things on the fly when we're in a rush to help all these kids? How can social investments and equity be leveraged by non-state actors to support expansion of the system? And what are realistic employment policies, if any, that can be linked to the education-related needs, both for refugee teachers and for the future employment needs of the refugee graduates themselves? Under what conditions can rapid expansion of education services be achieved for displaced populations without diminishing quality? These are just a few of the issues that we're thinking about at USAID, and I know all of you are thinking about it. And that's quite a list, and Nita had a whole bunch of others as well. So you've got your work cut out for you in only one day.